Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. The Bene Gesserit in Dune, they're like these puppet masters, right? Pulling strings, shaping destinies. Well, what if we went way, way back, like 10,000 years before Paul Atreides, to uncover the very beginnings of this whole sisterhood?
It's a fascinating period. You've been really interested in how this all started, and I think we've got a great starting point with that new HBO series, Dune, Prophecy.
Dune. Prophecy, exactly. This prequel, just 6 episodes in its first season, takes us back 10,148 years before the events of Frank Herbert's original Dune. Talk about a deep dive into the origins.
It's a pretty bold move to explore this era.
Oh, absolutely. But they're not just making things up as they go. The series draws a lot of inspiration from Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's Great Schools of Dune trilogy, Sisterhood of Dune in particular.
Right? Sisterhood of Dune. It gives us that foundation. And one of the most significant things to keep in mind is the time frame. This is all happening 116 years after the Butlerian Jihad. For anyone new to the Dune universe, just a quick reminder, that wasn't just a philosophical debate. It was a full-blown war against thinking machines. Machines that had become way too powerful for humans to control.
Like, imagine AI gone rogue on a galactic scale. That's the Butlerian Jihad. And that event cast a long, dark shadow over everything that happens in Dune, Prophecy. This deep-seated fear of technology, the repercussions, it's all there.
It's absolutely essential to understand that context.
Yeah.
Because that deep-seated distrust of technology, it directly shapes the actions, the very philosophies of the Sisterhood as it starts to take root in Dune Prophecy.
So what we're going to do in this deep dive, it's like giving you the cheat sheet, right? We're hitting the fast forward button on season 1. We'll go over the key players, those big conflicts, those major themes, so you get the heart of it without having to watch every single minute.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So let's start right at the beginning, where the Sisterhood's power first starts to emerge.
And at the center of this whole emergence are two pivotal characters, Valia Harkonnen and Tula Harkonnen, played by Emily Watson and Olivia Williams, respectively. They're the driving force behind the Sisterhood's rise to power. And it's important to remember, at this point, it's not yet the Bene Gesserit.
Right. We're talking about the very early days. And what struck me right away is how different these two sisters are. Valia, she seems utterly consumed by this need to restore House Harkonnen's glory after the Butlerian Jihad.
He took a serious hit during that conflict. It's clear there's a lot of baggage there.
And she sees the Sisterhood as her path to achieving that, to bringing House Harkonnen back to the forefront. Tula, though, while obviously devoted to the Sisterhood, she seems to have a softer, more empathetic perspective.
Absolutely. That contrast between them, their personal motivations, it really sets the stage for a lot of the tension and drama that unfolds throughout the season.
Yeah.
And then there's the setting itself, or I should say settings. We spend a lot of time on Seleucus Secundus, which, as any Dune fan knows, will eventually become the brutal training ground for the Emperor Sardaukar. But in this era, it's still the heart of the Imperium. And then there's Wallach Nyax, the primary training center for the Sisterhood.
Right, Seleucus Secundus, all about political power plays. And Wallach Nyax, that's where the Sisterhood hones its unique abilities, like truth-saying. So episode 1, The Hidden Hand, throws us right into the thick of things. We get this flashback to the Butlerian Jihad, and Valia's narration really emphasizes how House Harkonnen felt overshadowed by House Atreides even back then.
A rivalry stretching back centuries, millennia, really. It immediately lets you know that this isn't just about the Sisterhood, it's about something much deeper and more personal for Valia.
Oh yeah, it's personal. And in the present day of the series, we've got Emperor Haviko Carino, played by Mark Strong, trying to navigate a pretty unstable Imperium. The Fremen on Arrakis are causing problems with the spice trade. You know how crucial spice is to everything. Space travel, extending life. Even their prescience?
It's the most valuable substance in the universe. You control the spice, you control the universe.
Exactly. So Haviko, in a classic power move, tries to solidify his position by arranging a marriage between his daughter, Princess Yenne's, and this guy, Pruitt Riches.
A classic political marriage. But it's not as simple as it seems, is it?
Not at all. Because the Sisterhood, they have their own game plan. Valia, along with her mentor, Rakala Bertawanarul, they come up with this scheme to place a sister, Kasha, as a truth-sayer in the Emperor's inner circle. You know, to pull some strings from behind the scenes.
Very subtle, very Bene Gesserit, even in his early days. And for those listening who know the Bene Gesserit of the later books, that reliance on subtle manipulation, that's a direct result of the Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah.
They had to find ways to operate in the shadows, away from overt power and definitely away from technology.
Right, playing the long game.
Yeah.
But then things get really crazy. This character, Desmond Hart, shows up, played by Travis Fimmel, and he's this, I don't know, this wild card, this warrior with a mysterious past, and he has these incredible powers, but they're not like anything we've seen before. Like, he can control fire with his mind, and in a truly shocking scene, he interrupts the engagement celebration, and, well, let's just say Kasha doesn't make it out alive.
A dramatic entrance, to say the least. He completely disrupts the Sisterhood's plans and exposes them in a way they never anticipated. It's a wake-up call.
Ugh.
They thought they were operating in the shadows, but Desmond, he's a whole new level of unpredictable. And his powers, that's a whole other mystery, right? Where did those come from? They're not like anything we've seen in the Dune universe so far.
Right. It makes you wonder, what else is out there that they don't know about? And then there's that scene, a very quick scene, actually, of Princess Mynez sparring with Kieran Atreides. Almost a blink and you'll miss it moment. But it's there, a little seed planted, foreshadowing that big Harkonnen-Atreides rivalry that we know will eventually explode.
Definitely a hint of things to come.
So episode 2, Two Wolves, it's all about the fallout from Desmond's arrival. Valia is reeling from Kasha's death and from the fact that the Sisterhood's been exposed.
They're vulnerable now. And Valia. She doesn't like being vulnerable.
No, not one bit. But meanwhile, over on Wallach Ninex, Tula's mentoring Sister Leela, who volunteers for this incredibly dangerous ritual called the Agony. They use spice to unlock these deep ancestral memories, but it's a high-risk, high-reward kind of thing.
Yeah, the name The Agony is pretty self-explanatory, and this early look into the Sisterhood's methods, it really shows the lengths they're willing to go to acquire knowledge, tap into that ancient wisdom.
Yeah. Leela survives, but she ends up in a coma, and her visions, they're terrifying. All these fragments of prophecies about a tyrannical force called the Tiran Arafel. Apparently, Raquella had also been worried about this. It sounds like something even the Sisterhood fears.
It definitely introduces this element of dread.
Yeah.
You know, like something bigger, something darker is brewing. And the Tiran Arafel prophecy, that's a big mystery hanging over everything.
Definitely adds to the suspense. And it's also where we see those first real cracks in Valia and Tula's relationship. Tula wants to save Leela, that motherly instinct really kicking in, but Valia, she's all about the mission, even if it means sacrificing one of their own.
You start to see those fundamental differences in their values. Valia, she can be ruthless.
No kidding. So back on Seleucus Secundus, while all of this is happening, Desmond's actually gaining favor with Emperor Haviko. Haviko sees him as this protector, this powerful weapon. But Empress Natalia, she's not buying it. She doesn't trust Desmond one bit.
Natalia. She's smart, she's observant, and she can sense the danger that Desmond represents, even if Haviko can't.
Which, honestly, makes her one of the more interesting characters in the whole series. We also get these great flashbacks in episode 2, which I always appreciate. Seeing young Valia using the voice, a very early form of Bene Gesserit training, to save her brother. It's a glimpse into how those abilities start to manifest, but even then, you see that hint of ruthlessness.
Those flashbacks, they're so important for understanding who these characters really are. We see those early glimpses of the Sisterhood's power taking shape.
Yeah. And speaking of power, Valia recruits Sister Theodosia to monitor Desmond. And we get this pretty amazing reveal of Theodosia's shape-shifting abilities, like she can literally transform into another person.
That's a huge step up in the Sisterhood's covert operations. It means they can infiltrate, gather information.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
Right. It adds this whole new layer to their manipulation tactics. And remember, all of this is playing out against the backdrop of this brewing rebellion among the noble houses. It's getting messy out there. Then episode 3, Sisterhood Above All. This one really dives into the past. We get more flashbacks, going deeper into the formative years of both Valia and Tula.
It's like peeling back the layers of their history to understand the choices they're making in the present.
Exactly. So young Valia, she's already questioning the Sisterhood's traditional role as these, truth tellers. She sees truth as a weapon, something to be wielded for power, and this puts her at odds with Dorothea, who's Raquella's successor.
That's a pretty fundamental disagreement, right? It shows that even within the Sisterhood, there are these different ideologies about their purpose, about how they should use their influence.
Yeah, it's not as unified as it might seem. And in a move that really shocked me, Valia orchestrates Dorothea's murder so she can take control and become Mother Superior.
A power grab.
A big one. And her motivation. It was all about Dorothea's opposition to Raquella's early eugenics program. They were starting to selectively breed people, manipulating bloodlines to enhance their abilities.
Early stages of what will become the Bene Gesserit breeding program, that long-term plan to shape humanity to their design. It's a controversial method. to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. And then we see a flashback of young Tula taking revenge for her brother's death by attacking an Atreides hunting party. But here's the kicker. Her lover, Ori Atreides, is among those killed, but she spares their unborn child. Talk about a complicated past.
Love, loss, revenge,
Mm-hmm.
all tangled together. And that decision to spare the child, that has some serious repercussions down the line.
No kidding. So, back in the present, Valia's hold on power slipping. Desmond manages to convince Yuviko to exile her from the court. Her influence is waning, and Desmond's star is on the rise.
A serious setback for Valia, but she's not the type to just give up.
Oh, no, not Valia. But while she's trying to figure out her next move, Tula is still deeply worried about Leela, who's still in that coma. And the other acolytes, they're having these shared nightmares. Blue eyes, these garbled voices. It's all very creepy.
And very intriguing, especially for those who know the significance of blue eyes in the Dune universe. Those shared nightmares, they suggest a deeper connection within the Sisterhood, maybe even the psychic link.
Mm.
And Leela's visions, they seem to be at the heart of it.
Like she's tapping into something bigger than herself. And so episode 3 ends with these two sisters on very different paths. Valia, she's all about reclaiming her power, whatever the cost. And Tula, she's driven by compassion, by her need to protect Leela. But they're still bound together by that loyalty to the Sisterhood.
The tension between their personal desires and their duty to the Sisterhood, it's a recurring theme throughout the season. And it makes for some great drama.
Yeah, and things only escalate from there. Episode 4, Twice Born, the stakes are getting higher. We've got the Imperium's High Council gathering, meaning some big decisions are about to be made. And Valia, she's desperate to get back in Haviko's good graces.
She needs to regain that influence.
Exactly. So she hatches this plan to rescue Haviko from a rebel bombing attack, hoping to appear as the hero. She even manipulates her own nephew, Hero Harkonnen, into helping her.
She's playing a dangerous game.
Oh, yeah. But it's not just Valia making bold moves. Princess Yunez, she's also questioning her father's alliance with Desmond. And guess what? She ends up joining forces with the rebels who are plotting to assassinate Haviko.
It's a huge risk. She's essentially betraying her own father. But she sees Desmond as this growing threat, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to stop him.
She's definitely not afraid to take a stand. But Desmond, of course, with his crazy powers, he thwarts the attack. And not just thwarts it, he completely incinerates the conspirators. It's a brutal display of power, and it solidifies his control over the Emperor.
He's basically untouchable at this point. Nobody can stand against him.
And remember Theodosia with her shape-shifting. She plays a key role in helping Valia with her rescue plan. The Sisterhood's operating on a whole new level of covert ops now.
Infiltration, manipulation. They're becoming experts at it.
And back on Wallach Nyax, Leela's coma nightmares are getting even worse. The acolytes are freaked out, and Tula's getting closer to figuring out the source of Desmond's powers, and guess what she discovers?
It's something big, right?
Huge. She finds a link between Desmond and a fear virus. A virus that seems to be directly connected to, you guessed it, thinking machines. So now there's this whole new layer of fear and suspicion surrounding him, not just because of his powers, but because he might be a walking, talking embodiment of everything the Imperium dreads.
It really throws the whole Butlerian Jihad conflict into a new light. Maybe those fears weren't so irrational after all.
Right. The episode ends with Valia's plan failing, leaving her isolated and Desmond in a stronger position than ever. Not a good outcome for her. But then we get to episode 5, In Blood, Truth. And the twists just keep coming. Valia's not done yet, though. She comes up with a new plan, even riskier than the last. She wants to free the imprisoned Yunez and use her to destabilize Desmond.
Bold strategy. But Yunez is a powerful symbol. If Valia can get her on her side, it could be a major blow to Desmond and Natalia.
Exactly. So she sends Theodosia and Hero to Seleucia Secundus, and with Theodosia's shape-shifting, they manage to pull off a daring escape. Yunez is free, and she's still aligned with Kira and Atreides.
That alliance could be very dangerous for Natalia, especially with Yuviko out of the picture.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of dangerous, this episode drops a bombshell on us. Tula discovers that Desmond is her son.
Whoa, that changes everything.
Right. She had a child with Ori Atreides, the one she killed in that revenge attack, but she gave him up to protect him from Valia's schemes.
Talk about family drama. And this revelation explains why Tula's so convinced that Desmond's powers are rooted in technology. She knows where he came from, and she knows what she did to protect him.
It adds this whole other layer to her character and her motivations. It's not just about the sisterhood for her anymore, it's personal.
It's always personal, isn't it? And meanwhile, back at the palace, we've got Francesca, A sister loyal to Valia, trying to seduce Yaviko to undermine Natalia and Desmond.
Classic sisterhood manipulation tactic.
Hey, whatever works, right? But things go very wrong very quickly. Yaviko, he ends up stabbing himself.
I know, right? Talk about a shocking moment. And Natalia, she doesn't hesitate. She kills Francesco with the gum jawbard, that poison needle the Bene Gesserit are known for.
Cold-blooded. That moment really shows you who Natalia is, what she's capable of.
No kidding. And so the episode ends with Valia heading off to Arrakis, searching for answers, and Tula finally ready to confront Desmond.
The tension is just building and building.
Ugh.
And then the finale.
The big one, the high-handed enemy. 80 minutes long, so you know it's going to be intense.
Yeah.
Tula finally meets Desmond, reveals their connection, begs him to fight whatever is controlling him. It's an incredibly emotional scene.
It is. You can really feel the weight of that moment. The years of separation, the secrets, the love, the fear. It's all there.
And Desmond's torn, right? He's got this newfound connection with his mother, but he's also completely under Natalia's influence. And in the end, he chooses Natalia. He imprisons Tula.
Heartbreaking. But it shows how deep Natalia's hold on him really is.
Yeah. But while that's happening, Valia's on Arrakis, and she's uncovering evidence of a much bigger conspiracy. One that involves, you guessed it, thinking machines.
That fear of technology.
Okay.
It's not just paranoia. There's something real there.
And it seems to tie directly into that Tyrann-Arafel prophecy that's been looming over everything. But the craziness doesn't stop there. Back on Wallachai X, Leela wakes up from her coma. But she's not Leela anymore. She's possessed by the consciousness of Dorothea.
An abomination, so they call it. And in the Dune universe, that word means something very bad.
Very bad. And this new Leela Dorothea, she exposes all of Valia's secrets, all the dirty deeds she's done, including the murder of Dorothea's followers. Their bodies, buried right under the Sisterhood's pool. Talk about a dark secret.
Yeah. It's a complete betrayal, and it completely destroys Valia's authority within the Sisterhood.
And of course, Leela Dorothea takes control, challenges Valia's leadership. The Sisterhood's not just facing external threats now, they're imploding from within.
Chaos.
Pure chaos. Meanwhile, with Yaviko gone, Natalia's consolidating her power. With Desmond as her enforcer, it's a whole new regime, and it doesn't look good for anyone who opposes them.
A new era of fear. And in a small bit of good news, Yanez and Kieran managed to escape. Their fate's uncertain, but at least they're free for now.
So the season ends with a whole lot of cliffhangers, right?
Yeah.
Valia's on Arrakis, Tula's a prisoner. The Sisterhood's in turmoil. Season 2 can't come soon enough. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and look at some of the big themes running through this first season. Power, manipulation, it's everywhere. The Sisterhood's using these subtle tactics, playing the long game, but then you've got Desmond. He's just raw power, brute force.
Two very different approaches to control.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about the costs, the consequences of each path.
Absolutely. And then there's that legacy of revenge. Valia is obsessed with restoring House Harkonnen, with getting back at the Atreides. It drives so much of what she does.
Like a fire that's been burning for generations.
Yeah. And you can't forget the whole technology versus humanity theme.
Yeah.
The Butlerian Jihad, Desmond's powers, it's all tied together. It makes you understand why the Imperium is so terrified of thinking machines.
It's a reminder of what happens when technology gets out of control.
And then, of course, there's the theme of sisterhood, of loyalty, of sacrifice. Valia and Tula, their relationship, it's so complex. They care about each other, but their ambitions, their loyalties, sometimes they clash.
And they have to make hard choices, sometimes impossible choices.
Right. So let's talk about the characters themselves, their arcs. Valia, she starts out as this strong leader, but by the end, she's lost almost everything. She's searching for answers, but she's alone, desperate.
It's a pretty steep fall from grace, but it's also an opportunity for her to maybe find a new path.
Maybe. Tula, she's the quiet one, but she shows this incredible strength. She's driven by compassion, by her need to protect those she cares about. But now she's a prisoner, and her fate is uncertain.
She's faced some impossible challenges, made some heartbreaking choices, but she's a survivor.
I hope so. Desmond. He's the villain, yes, but he's also a victim in a lot of ways. Controlled by technology, manipulated by Natalia. His story is just tragic.
It makes you wonder what he could have been if things had been different.
Yeah. And then there's Leela Dorothea. That transformation, that possession, it's a game changer. It's like a bomb went off within the Sisterhood.
And who knows what the fallout will be.
Exactly. And let's not forget the Emperor and Empress. Yaviko was weak, easily manipulated, and ultimately it cost him everything. But Natalia, she's the real power player now. Ruthless, ambitious. She's the one to watch.
She seized her opportunity, and she's not letting go.
So visually, the series is stunning. They really captured that Dune aesthetic, but they also created their own unique look, especially for Seleucus Secundus and Wallach IX.
The costumes, the sets, it's all very well done.
Definitely. Some critics thought the pacing was a bit slow in the beginning, but I think it was necessary to set up this complex world. And the second half of the season, it's just nonstop action and twists. The acting is fantastic, especially Emily Watson, Olivia Williams, Travis Fimmel. And Chloe Leah was amazing as Leela. Some people felt like the younger characters could have been developed more, but with only 6 episodes, it's understandable.
I agree. It's a lot to pack into a single season. But overall, I think Dune, Prophecy, really delivered. It's ambitious, it's well-made, and it expands the Dune lore in some really interesting ways.
Yeah, I think it's a must-watch for any Dune fan, especially if you're interested in the origins of the Bene Gesserit. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the big takeaways? The Sisterhood's early days were messy, chaotic. They were struggling for power, battling external threats, and dealing with internal conflict.
They're still figuring things out, finding their way.
And the Butlerian Jihad, that fear of technology, it's at the root of so much of what we see in Dune, Prophecy. And then there's Valia and Tula, 2 sisters with completely different visions for the future, both driven by love and loss and ambition.
They're both fighting for what they believe in, even if it means clashing with each other.
So the question I leave you with is this. How did these events, these early struggles, these characters, how did they shape the Bene Gesserit into the powerful force we know they'll become? It's something to think about. And if you want to go even deeper, check out Sisterhood of Dune. It's a great companion piece to the series. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
Always a pleasure.